Hi. I thought for this bit, as I drag myself back into this game in an attempt to level up and, grind, and don't even hit anything. I wanted to talk about this article I saw. Hey, these aren't the weapons I want anyways. Stop it. And it was, what was it? Bosses are fed up with remote work for 4 main reasons. Some of them are undeniable. And it's written by Fortune editors and Jane Thier, who I don't know anything about, but it just happened to pop up while I was at work, and it was a little news thing that Windows was providing, and it... Oh, I never used that button. And it just happened to catch my attention. Because I remember when COVID was, isolating everybody in the world, remote jobs were on the rise, and I was kind of hopeful about that because I really would like to have a remote job. But I never did get one. Not officially, anyways. I occasionally would get something that kind of... I get stuff where I can work on a little project at home, but it was never work at home. Now, one of the first points it mentions is that remote work is bad for new hires and junior employees. And this was absolutely correct. It talked about how employees would get hired and they'd go through an onboarding process and they just weren't quite able to get up to snuff with everything that they should have been doing. And that makes sense. And the best I can relate to this is a previous job I had in an office. I had really actually got to a point where between it not paying nearly as much as it should have in this metropolis area, goodness gracious, talking is getting me killed. I got to a point where it's like, I'd really like to do this job from home because I had a better computer, I had a better phone, I definitely had a way better monitor and everything else. I am trying to shield! And I could have done so much more from home, but I should also point out that it took me about 8 months of working there before I would have been comfortable doing this. That's a long time to be doing onboarding and stuff. To be putting someone through an orientation and training. And that's where even like it's kind of talking about why is everything harder? I haven't played in a couple weeks, so it's a little rough. And it was just like, yeah, okay, sure, onboarding junior employees, that makes sense, but is that a problem for the remote jobs? No, it's a problem of not having a good established system in place to train and prepare employees for a role like that. That if it works eventually, it eventually works and is not a bad thing. So why not fix that? Again, I worked for a place for 8 months. And mind you, this job, the one I'm talking about that I took on, they didn't know what they wanted me to do when I got there. So part of that 8 months was me actually eventually trying to flesh out a role for myself, which in the end sort of became something along the lines of an operations manager, almost, if you will. Officially, I was an administrative assistant, but there was just I was shifting towards doing a lot of operations. I was shifting towards doing a lot of problem solving too. A lot of, hey, why has this been, on the books for so long? Why is it a problem? Why are people not talking? Why are things not getting done? And I would go back and use that free time that I had because they didn't have an official role for me. And I started tracking down things and trying to fix problems. Where's Atreus? Oh, okay. Well, he's not even... Okay, so it's not all me. Atreus is apparently kind of rusty too, so that's great. That's awesome. Oh, I forgot I had the squirrel assigned. But it's like, okay, so, you know, first point they mentioned, good point. You know, it is hard to train someone to do work remotely. You know, I had tons of questions for people all the time. I was constantly looking for advice, trying to figure out what to do. It makes sense. Would you stop spitting poison, please? So fair point. Fair point. That's what I'm okay. Cool. And do I not have a stone? I did not have a stone. Alright, cool. So yeah, to address that first one, it's like, can the job even be reasonably worked remotely? And if it can...
I see you're actually enjoying Ivaldi's workshop.
No, I'm not.
Certainly spent enough time here.
Have a better training program in place for doing it. And it probably would involve people being on site for a while. And I am curious to know how much of this is comprehensible as I try talking about it while dying in a game. What was the other one? Workers admit that remote work sometimes causes more problems than in-person work. Well, that goes that goes right along with the first point.
Off on my account.
And it goes along with what I was saying, like 8 months. And even as I started figuring out what I was doing and carving out the role for myself, I was constantly going over to the guy who had worked there for a long time, whose duties I was slowly absorbing, and just going, hey, how do you do this? Where's this? What's going on? And unless everyone's already on, you know, this online with like some kind of messenger video thing that's able to pop open in a half second, then I can see where not being in person can be difficult. How do you get your colleagues' advice, your help, permission from your superiors, things like that?
There you go, fucko.
Okay, ratted gas squirrel thing. So again, yeah, there's no surprise there that it can be troublesome to, you know, work remotely. Not to mention, you know, even if you think you're doing your job just fine remotely, what happens when, you know, you mess up and your boss has got to go, you know, someone catches it, but then they're like, oh, geez, I got to get a hold of this person. I got to try and reach them. What's the best way? Do I do it through Skype or Zoom, or do I call them, or do I email them? Are they even going to pay attention? So again, I think is the job appropriate? Now, and let me step back for a moment from this little conversation to point that out too. This was a biased article, obviously, because it says bosses are fed up with remote jobs. So of course it's going to be biased towards that opinion. But I think one of the first questions you got to ask is the job in question should it even be done remotely? You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, you could remotely do customer service for, you know, a movie theater from home. Just someone comes in and walks up to a kiosk and talks to a little video or, you know, intercom version of you while you're at home. It's not the same thing. It's not really gonna. Would you stop blowing up, please? Okay, everyone. I'm. So is the job appropriate to be at home? Man, they're all like, no, I'm not okay, Atreus. Why is he so fast? Why is he a level 8? I didn't think all of these guys were such high levels. So even then, you got to make sure it's the appropriate category. And going back to the example of the job that I would have liked to have worked from home, I still would have been coming into the office at least once a week, quite possibly twice on a regular basis, and maybe even 3 times, depending on when the boss was like, hey, I need to have an impromptu meeting, get over here. And that's another reason why I wanted to work from home, though, was, well, actually opposite, but one of the reasons I wanted to work from home is because, you know, the drive there, it took time. You know, I had to keep buying gas. I had to keep getting, you know, food on the go and stuff like that. And I had to cross a toll bridge. If I didn't cross the toll bridge, it took an extra hour, no joke, to drive to the same place. And Atreus is lagging behind and can't shoot all of his arrows, so that's awesome.
Poison!
Oh, good, poison. I love poison. So again, you know, I was reading point 2, and it's just like, well, you know, that goes very much along with point 1. It's like someone, whatever the job is, first off, it has to be appropriate, and then point 2, it has to, you know, have the experience of a person backing it. And even during the COVID, I mean, first, we reacted to the COVID, you know, isolation stuff way too late for it to be truly effective. I mean, by the time we finally went, okay, you know, what was the term? I can't, quarantine. It's like, it's already here. It's already spreading. You know, at this point, you should just let it happen and then maybe just try and, you know, protect the elderly and the children. But in that case, you know, it was, you know, all about social distancing and stuff like that, and not cramming a bunch of people in cubicles. And that's where this remote work was happening, and why that's the particular focus that was being fed up. If you're the kind of place that has, you know, 50 employees all in cubicles around you, then yeah, well, I can see why you're having a hard time with turnover and everything else, and new employees and young employees. But it's like, well, okay, how about you do, you know, what I'm saying? That would be part of the revamping of the training system. It's like, this is a new world, this is a new focus. You send your most experienced people home first. The ones you know are going to stay, you know, the ones that are going to work well, who are going to be dedicated, who are going to try, invest a little bit of money in getting them some good communications equipment and making sure that they have a stable, you know, internet connection at home to work from, whatever. And then you keep the new employees in the office and train them up, giving them experience. And if they stay on for a year or 2 or whatnot, if they make it past... Why are they all level 8 now? Apparently this place does level up with you as you level up, which kind of stinks, but hey, it is what it is. What was point 3? Oh yeah, this is the one that started when I was reading the article. It really rankled me, which was remote workers put in 3.5 hours less per day of work compared to in-person workers. You know what? I believe it. And that's just shame on whoever is doing that job. You know, I get it. I get the whole you're going to sleep in a little bit later because you don't necessarily need to do as thorough of a scrubbing in the morning. You don't have to rush to, you might, you know, trying to cram food down your gullet. You're going to wear your yoga pants or sweatpants. But you do your job. Again, with the example, because I've been putting thought into it, if I had been able to switch to a remote position with the job I have been working, Would I ever have done, say, my laundry while on the clock? Would you all stop this guy? Absolutely. And I know specifically when. It would not have been casual. It would not have been willy-nilly. It would have been when I was having a conversation with subcontractors. Because for the most part, subcontractors, when I would talk to them, it wasn't about me tracking down, you know, technical details or something where I needed to be at my desk and at my notepad, jotting things down and researching on the spot. Usually. It was usually someone was upset and they needed to talk. And for me to pay attention to someone like that, it helps if I do something to distract my hands and whatnot. You know, where fidget spinners supposedly made for, which I didn't have growing up. But and that's where a good employee can organize their time and their schedule. It's like, hey, I'm at home. I can do all sorts of stuff while I'm working at home. No, you can't. You can't. You have to do your job. But like I said, if I was having one of those particularly long conversations with a subcontractor, and these were the kind of conversations when I was in office where I would get up from my desk and I would actually walk outside in the fresh air so that I could, keep myself physically distracted while I could mentally focus on the conversation. That would be a time when I'm at home when I might just sort the mail a little bit. I might go ahead and put a load of laundry in the wash, whatever. That also means that this would not be free time. This isn't something I'd be doing all the time, whenever I want, however I want. It wouldn't be a moment available to me every day. I would not plan on having time to sort the mail, to do laundry while I'm on the clock. This guy is ticking me off. You have to be dedicated. You have to still do what you're supposed to, and he just runs off. Oh, that was weird. Scooters across the ground. Yeah. Would I, while working from home, tickle the cat? Absolutely. Pet the dog? Absolutely. Let the dog outside, let the dogs in. Absolutely. Would I cook a big fancy meal? No. I might prepare a crock pot meal, something that's gonna cook over 8 hours or something like that. But no, I would not be preparing a fancy meal while doing my remote job. I might be a little sloven with my clothes, but at the same time, if I'm going to be in the kind of position where I'm doing a Zoom call, I'm at least going to, put on a clean shirt. They don't know what's happening downstairs, but at least have that clean shirt on. Have that, slight professional look. I mean, it's not even like we're in a day and age where everyone has to be perfectly clean shaven with silky smooth hair all the time. No, you got the stylish look you can pull off there. Should you have a rat's nest? No, you shouldn't. But you should still at least look clean. It doesn't take that much effort. Good Lord. But yeah, that one really bothered me because you've got this opportunity to work from home, Zoom, and if it's in America, then you're going to be getting some kind of decent pay, I would hope, and not to mention how much you're saving on, gas. I'm envious of people who live in places where everything's in a walking distance, or you could take a bus, or you could take, a subway. I went to London once and I thought, wow, it's really amazing. I can get on a subway and get across this big city faster than I can drive across my little city in Ohio. I was just blown away by it. I'm jealous of that. Most people of us in America don't have that option. Well, at least based on region and stuff. We gotta drive. And boy, that price of gasoline just keeps going up and up. And hey, sure, there's electric vehicles. They cost money. Sucks. Don't have it. Did any of those arrows hit? So yeah, if you've got this great opportunity, you're not just going to sit there and go, oh, well, I work from home, so I don't have to wake up until 5 minutes after my shift actually starts, because everyone else at the office is going to be making coffee and hanging up their coat and talking about what they did the night before. I don't even have to wake up yet. No, your time has started. You need to be ready. You need to be ready to go. You need to have that shirt on, have your coffee poured, or your monster drink out, whatever your poison is, you know, and just ready. You know, you get the phones need to be charged and ready to pick up calls, and you need to be making sure your internet's working, that your computer isn't, you know, blown up over the night, that you've got your emails ready to go. You know what I did? I would show up a little bit early and I would actually check my emails, because, you know, there'd be that person who's sending an email after your shift ended the night before. And it might be pertinent to know about what was happening. You might be needing to fall. Would everybody please stop hitting me at once? It'd be important to check up on it. It might be something urgent. Someone might have sent an email at 10 p.m. that you haven't known about concerning a matter that they're like, at 8:30 a.m. your shift starts at 8. By 8:30, I have to have this done. Otherwise, it's going to cost us money and time that we can't afford. These are things that it's just important to do that. So no, you don't just like sleep in. You don't take a nap. Like, oh well, I know the boss is going to be like out to lunch, leaves out to lunch a half hour earlier than the rest of us have our lunch break, and then they come back a half hour after our official lunch break. So I will just sleep for 2 hours. No, you don't. No.
You don't look too good.
Yes, Mimir, thank you. It's because I'm talking and distracting myself. No, you do things. And you don't end the day early. You don't like put up an automated email script and be like, hey, I'm done. Okay, everyone have fun. 3.5 hours. I've tried to intentionally screw around on a job, and I have a hard time wasting 15 minutes. 3.5 hours? What are people doing out there that they're wasting that kind of time? Now, if that has, and again, it talked about all the bad stuff in the article. It talked about people sleeping in and being lazy and stuff like that. There are other considerations, like I mentioned, an internet connection. How healthy is that person's connection at home? Are you making them rely on a work phone that's that's going off of a data plan or something? Are they just simply, having time burned away outside of their own, that's not of their own fault, is what I'm trying to say. And that was another thing at the time when I first read this article. Again, I had to kind of go back and read the title, which was Bosses Are Fed Up. But I did notice that the article was very biased towards, like, a boss's point of view. Fair enough. That's explicitly what the article said it was. But in the case of, like, that wasted... But I have a stone. Did I already use the stone and forgot about it? Or am I not allowed to use the stone in the workshop? It drives me crazy when
Seriously, be careful with those realm tears.
people just waste time. I mean, I'd be ready to go to. Yeah, I have
Well,
a stone.
don't buy anything on my account.
Well, apparently I just wasn't allowed to use my stone, or either that, or Atreus was knocked out. Could have been Atreus was knocked out. But it drives me crazy the way people can waste time, because I want to stay busy. I want to do a good job. I don't want to be that guy. And it's amazing how people have that talent and they can be employed somewhere for years. And they are always, 10 minutes late. They always find a way to leave early for every break. They come back late from every break. They somehow slip out of out of the office before the day is ended, and nobody even knows that they slipped away. Everyone just assumes they left with you. They do that. They waste the time. And they're really charismatic, aren't they? That's the real trick. Everybody thinks that they're the best pal in the whole world because they talk real sweet. And you're the biggest jerk in the world because you don't talk sweet. But yet they're in touch with you because you're the one that actually ends up having to do the job to solve the problems. Whereas that real sweet sucker, they just pass it off on you. But boy, they sound good, don't they? And they just waste that time. What was the last point? Ah, yes. Productivity. It goes with the third one. Productivity plummets on days when everyone is working remotely. And then it said at the end of it in parentheses, anecdotally, which is to say no one's done a hard study proving that. And mind you, again, talking about the bias that this is about, bosses are fed up. Okay, let me tell you, bosses out there, and I've been a middle level kind of boss before, and so I've done it to people as well. But I've usually been at the lowest end. Here's the thing about bosses, and thinking that productivity is low. If you've got someone who's working well, does a good job, and they're your go-to, and you're going to them several times a day during a shift or more, guess what? Their productivity is tanking because you won't stop talking to them and giving them new things to do and distracting them from the ones they are currently working on. Now, like I said, now I'm pointing this out because it specifically mentioned anecdotally. And it's from the point of view of a complaining employer, employing bosses and supervisors and stuff. Yeah, if you're going around an empty office going, boy, I just can't get Bob to do this because I could usually just pop out of my office before and be like, Bob, go do this, and now I can't, so productivity's down. No, if Bob's a really good employee, then productivity's actually probably a little bit higher because Bob gets to focus on his job while you have to now take the time to organize a structured message to contact Bob asking for this new thing. At which time Bob then gets to go, okay, well, I will add this to my schedule when I have a moment while I'm now focused very well on what I'm currently doing. So that's playing devil's advocate. That's me opposing the article, opposing the establishment, supporting the little guy, because, hey, that's a thing, because I've been on both ends of it, and I've been in the middle of it, where I'm trying to get people under me to do stuff in that most annoying, non-focused manner, while at the same time I'm trying to get things done, while my superior then comes around and is going, hey, I need you to do this and this. 5 minutes later, they come around. Oh, I forgot about this. Could you do this too? And forget about that thing earlier. The thing I just spent 2 hours on. So that's playing devil's advocate. However, I do believe that the reality is probably, you know, you've got 20 people working at home, then you've probably got 18 out of those 20 just going, I don't care. And I'm going to be pigging it. I'm going to be sitting on my couch watching TV, putting in only half an effort, and just don't care. So, fair enough to the article. I absolutely do believe that if everyone's at home, and from the kind of work I've seen from most places and most people, yeah, you probably lost productivity because you've just got people that are just faking, literally phoning it in. Yeah, remote work joke there, I guess. That doesn't work. I don't know. But yeah, it just the article really can't. Oh dear. Ooh. Okay, it wasn't at that spot. That's fine. But the article it's so much bothering me because it was not. Again, I have to be fair that it was specifically talking about bosses being fed up about it, and it's not a general, well-rounded opinion on the entire discussion of remote work. It is something I have really wanted. I've tried searching, I've tried applying. Unfortunately, you know, if you're just going through like something like Indeed, it's kind of hard to find the kind of remote job I'm looking for because, hey, they're searching for jobs in your region. And even in the case of remote work, that still kind of makes sense because, you know, a good program means you're going to still have to go in from time to time, probably. You probably should still be there for a good training period. You know, even in the case of where I said I wished I could have switched. The place I worked for, it had office work, it had sales work, and it had field work. And obviously I was in the office. And where I was starting to do some operation stuff and where I was, you know, organizing the IT stuff a little bit more, where I was trying to problem solve. I was reaching out to the field employees, to sales employees, to my coworkers in the office, reaching out to suppliers and contractors, and of course, the customers. Always the customers first, right? I wanted to work remotely because I had a much better setup at home. As I mentioned in the beginning, I got a more comfortable environment. I have, you know, I don't have to worry about, I don't have to stress over that appearance. You know, when I go into work, I spend so much time thinking about, okay, what's my facial expression look like? Have I made sure there's absolutely no stains on me? Have I made sure everything looks appropriate? Am I sitting up straight? Am I, you know, I spend so much time wasted on, like, I have to do all these social niceties that I could have just been spending, and I could have been spending doing work. And, you know, a lot of my work, almost all of my work was done on a computer. At home, I have a very nice computer with a desk that I've custom built myself with a super ultra wide monitor. Whereas at work, I was using one dinky little tiny monitor for everything. And a lot of what I had to do was things like data research. I was having to double check on contracts and schedules and going into the database, things like that, checking emails against emails against emails against contracts against what was being stored up in the database, whether it was all accurate. And doing that with one tiny dinky stupid little monitor was kind of ridiculous. I got a super ultra wide here. I got it while I was working at that job for my home use, and honestly, I was so tempted to take that monitor into work. No joke. I was so tempted. In fact, I took some of my work home with me that I was not paid for, that was not on the clock. I took it home just so I could use it at my, I would take it home and I worked on my private workstation because I was just able to be more productive, straight up. And that's something to consider. I am a little bit more of a techie person. If you're watching Austin's tech channel and you see us talking on there and you go, no, you're not a tech person. No, I'm not on the super high-end level of the people that you're going to find in, a good private computer store, like on the tech channels, Linus Tech and J2 Cents and stuff like that. But I certainly have enough knowledge that I could give just about every, what are they called? The Best Buy tech service a run for their money. In fact, I never even go to them because I learned a long time ago that they absolutely don't know as much as I do about computers, which was just disappointing. Geek Squad. I absolutely could give them a run for their money. And even if they, and this is not to insult Geek Squad, because even if there is a good Geek Squad technician, they're going to be limited on the restrictions of the company. I don't want to be insulting people there. That's not entirely fair because you're not in an entirely fair situation to be judged like that. But yeah, I have enough to know how to, even in the office, one of the biggest, one of the most time-consuming problems I had was when the printer spool would get jammed up, and I couldn't resolve the issue because I didn't have administrative access. All right, well, I've got my own LaserJet printer at home. Obviously, my own system has my own administrative rights for me. And I wouldn't be running into problems like that. Or, even when the answer to a tech problem is as simple as, did you turn it off and back on? And did you plug it in where it's supposed to be plugged in? And because someone is so frustrated and tense at work and being stubborn that they absolutely won't do the basic turn it off and back on, that you eventually you have to wait an hour for them to have their little temper tantrum before you can solve the problem yourself. Yes, let me work from home in that capacity where I can be so much more productive. Let me work at home where I don't have to be obsessing because I am the kind of person who worries. Did I leave the oven on? Did I lock the door? Did I it was a windy day today. Did the door accidentally stay on?
Okay, brother.
No, because it's this witch and I don't like her. Where'd she go? And there I'm mentioning I went from, skills and technical ability to, neurotic problems. Another reason I wanted to work from home is because I'm just super stressed out by the real world. Not the real world. Sorry. The real world doesn't bother me. The artificially constructed man-made world that we live in is the one that bothers me. And yes, it would be nice to not have to deal with it. Alright, I took a lot of damage. So yeah. Where was I? I don't know. But yeah, that's the thing. If you're going to have people working an office job remotely. Oh, yeah, I remember. I went off on several tangents. Okay. So again, part of the reason why I thought it would be nice to work from home, because of all these different people and the way I was starting to interact with my job in this office, was I have a better home environment for working from, to start with, where most of my stuff has to be done on a computer. I straight up just have a better situation. The one downside I have at home is the shady internet. Now, I had Spectrum in Ohio. It was relatively slow, but it was pretty consistent. I almost never had an outage. Now I'm down in this greater Louisville area, and I still have Spectrum. It's tremendously faster, but it goes out quite often. And from my understanding, it's tied in with the local cell tower, even though it's cable internet, but it has to use the cell tower to get the service here, blah, blah, blah. And not only does it go out on a disturbingly frequent basis, but it also, come on, where's my axe? Oh. It also can get tremendously slowed down at certain times, particularly when people are off work, when people are getting off school, i.e. when there's a bunch of traffic and people are just using their phones all over the place. So that's something I'd have to fix. Luckily, I have this nice phone with the nice data and a nice hotspot thing, so if I ever have an outage, I could just pop on my phone. If I really had to, share it with my computer, data-wise, for a little while, but I can still do most of my communication on my phone. And that's not even if, that's even if the employer didn't provide me with a work phone, which they absolutely should. So yes, better home environment. Another point is, like I said, I was having a lot of conversations with people in the field, with a lot of customers, with a lot of subcontractors, and with a lot of suppliers. And one of the big problem spots that I was constantly having to work through was the inconsistency concerning work done by the field employees. And that was because they had a high turnover rate and a very, very slow official onboarding process. I tried to dodge. I did. I tried to dodge. I promise. I don't... Okay. Okay. Oh, he can't do that. Stone. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Atreus. I only have 184 missed echoes. Wow.
No, don't leave me alone here.
But I wanted to be more mobile. I wanted to go and have conversations with those suppliers. I wanted to have conversations in person and observe the work of those subcontractors. And I also wanted to try and start meeting up with the field employees, because I started wheedling information out of them and they felt very isolated, and I could, because I had done similar work to what they had done, I could absolutely believe it. That they were feeling isolated, that they just didn't know what to do or how to handle certain situations, and they didn't know where to turn. And, you get to that point where when you're at a higher level, which in a way I represented a higher level to them, employee, work-wise, even though I wasn't. But it's one thing to tell people who work under you, in a way, that, hey, you can come to me with any kind of problem. It's no problem. Ask for help. Yeah, it's great to say that until there's an actual problem, and then someone starts to get in trouble and they start to get ridden. And so, especially if you're out in the field and you're not having daily contact with your coworkers in the office, let alone your superiors, and you got no one else for backup, and it takes 6 months before you get officially trained, they just kind of wait to see if you last for 6 months, which is going to burn you out as you just sit there and rack your head trying to figure out what you're supposed to do. So I wanted to be in a position where I could travel out with them and, basically bring the office with me. Observe what they're seeing, going, okay, I absolutely see why you're having a problem here. Totally. 100%. Let me get to work on fixing that back in the office, make that a better system. Because again, the place I was working for, it felt like walking back into 2008. I was working there 2 years ago, in 2023 or whatever. It felt very, I mean, it was a very clean organization. It was a very organized organization, but it felt very behind the times in terms of what technology can do for you, and in terms of, you know, legalities and terminology and how to speak with customers and stuff like that. And I'm like, this could definitely use some updating. And part of that is I want to work from the employee perspective, you know, those guys out in the field. They were who I'm used to being around and what kind of work I'm used to doing. And I wanted to find a way to help smooth out that work. At the same time, it could be they come up, you know, you go out and help them out in the field from the office point of view, and they go, man, I'm having such a problem with this. And you can just be like, oh, that's really not a big thing. Let's just fix it now. Problem is when they're out there in the field, isolated and alone, they don't know that they could just give you, they might be thinking in their head, oh gosh, this is going to get me fired. This is a major problem. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. Oh no, you get freaked out. You do. And you have no idea that you could, no joke, just give a call to someone in the office and they can, not only do they not think it's a big problem at all, just be like, hey, took 5 minutes and we got everything solved for you. And it was a combination of both stuff that was just that simple and, you know, actual problems that was happening. And so these guys out in the field just basically they just went silent. They holed up. They wouldn't talk to anybody. You know, they went around and tried to do their work as best as they could without using the resources that was available to them, that genuine resources available to them. And I felt a lot of pity for them. And they started talking to me because I started reaching out to them. I'm like, hey, I'm guessing this happened. What's going on? How can I help you? And after a while, they were starting to talk to me more. And they were starting to open up. And they were going, you know, I've got this problem. I can't trust this guy. You know, the one that I normally have to talk to at the office. I'm so glad that you have been helping me out with it. I'm so glad that you're not yelling at me about it. I'm so glad that you've kind of kept it to yourself. And nothing like shady or illegal. It was just, hey, sometimes people make mistakes. And it's, and this is a whole other conversation for another time, but there's differences I've noticed between like the way people work in Ohio and the way people work in Indiana. Let's just say, let's suffice it to say that one place is the kind of place where the trains run on time and people aren't always scared, and the other place is the trains rarely run at all, and people are constantly afraid for their jobs and their livelihood when they shouldn't have to be. And really it all just comes down to kind of a lack of organization, honestly. It's a lack of discipline, organization, and structure. And people are like, yeah, it's because, you know, we're not nearly as uptight. It helps us be relaxed and not stressed out. No, it's causing a whole heck of a lot more stress. It's causing a lot more problems. It's wasting and burning your time, which is, again, affecting stress. It's cutting back on the profits that you could be making. It's cutting back on the customer care that you could be doing. And all of that leads back to stress. It leads to problems. And you know what? You know, people make fun of, you know, disciplined, organized, train run on time kind of societies and groups, but and don't get me wrong, there's a certain point where it can become a lot more stressful, like in Japan. You can take it too far that it does become stressful, but there is a happy balance where it just You know, it's like having a clean house versus a messy house. You know, if you've got a messy desk that you work at, and it's because that's where everything that you're using, you know, multiple times a day are, that makes sense, you know. But if your house is just cluttered with trash and pizza boxes and, you know, dirty laundry and just things not organized and not put away, that creates a disruptive environment. But again, it's a whole other topic. So yeah, remote work, remote jobs. It's something I wish could grow more outside of just
Not that I condone such an action.
insurance salespeople having to make cold calls and customer service. I wish there was a bigger market. I wish it was growing, and obviously it exploded during the COVID quarantine period. But sadly, I can definitely see why remote jobs are on the decline. And maybe they'll rise back up one day. I absolutely believe they will rise up again one day as we become more efficient and technology becomes more streamlined and privacy gets invaded more, so that an employer who has a remote employee can just be like, okay, I can turn on this camera and microphone with crystal clear, you know, spying on you at all times. But yeah. On a side note, if anyone out there has a remote job for someone like me, let me know. That does not involve cold calls and insurance. Anyways, I don't know how. So yeah, that was this. And if you're wondering why I have such a random video about this, it's because I'm in a grindy part of this God of War game where I am just trying to level up and get experience and stuff. There's no story elements happening, and it's boring me, so I just wanted to try and talk about something while not dying in a video game. So, thanks.